All right, I want to look at this. Microsoft's three biggest mistakes. I want to see what's what because I've been a
2001, technology giant
hold on.
Microsoft.
Calm down. Off chat. I've been a Microsoft fan forever. First big boy system was the Xbox. I feel like everyone had kind of Nintendo stuff, and then finally Microsoft and Sony got in the game, and then the divide came, right? And I sided with Microsoft. So I want to see what are Microsoft's three biggest mistakes. What do they do wrong?
November of
Oh, that looks way
2001,
better.
technology giant Microsoft entered the console wars with the Xbox, a system that took the best aspects of PC gaming.
Where did you buy your first console? Because I bought mine at Toys R Us. I don't think my family and I ever went to Toys R Us that much. And I happened to buy I got the Xbox from Toys R Us. It was a very exciting day. And then I bought Halo and I fucking hated it. So that was a bummer.
And put them inside a video game console. Microsoft had been making video games for years, but only in the personal computer realm. With the Xbox, the company envisioned a gaming console that was programmer-friendly. The console could take advantage of PC technology without the complexity of supporting multiple hardware combinations. But it was about more than video games. Microsoft wanted control of people's living rooms.
Hell
But they feared
yeah.
Sony had beat them to it. They saw competitor Sony and their PlayStation 2 console as a threat to their entire business. The PlayStation 2 could play games, DVDs, and connect online. Microsoft feared the PlayStation 2 was Sony's Trojan horse, poised to take over a household's entertainment network completely. Microsoft wanted to get its foot in the door before it was too late. The company paid a hefty price. In the first 4 years of the Xbox, Microsoft lost almost $4 billion.
Yeah, really?
But Microsoft saw this as a small price to pay to entrench itself in the video game industry. And today, they are still a significant player in the business, competing with Sony and
How did they lose $4 billion? Like, is it just ads or like, all that? Like $4 billion.
Nintendo for control over your gaming universe. Microsoft is the youngest of the three major video game companies, and it has undoubtedly had a bumpy road to get to where it is today. So let's take a look at Microsoft's three biggest mistakes in its journey. As a side note, we are sticking to video games for these mistakes. If we got into other areas, like the Windows operating systems, I don't know if anything video
Vista was the biggest piece of shit. Oh my god, remember fucking Vista? Vista was such trash. Holy shit. I played Horizons 5 on my buddy's PlayStation 5 and it really made me want one again. Though I don't really play console games, so shrug. Yeah. I'm pretty hooked on just having a computer for everything. Like, when I have a living room again and I have a TV, I think I'm gonna just like buy a computer to be the hub. I think a computer seems like it's kind of like the way to go. Might be a little overkill, but at the same time, might not be because I've yet to see a TV that can. I guess there's one in this house that can run Twitch. Like it has a dedicated Twitch app, but the other two don't. And it's kind of annoying. Computer can run everything. Can also get like really creepy about it too. If you like had a security system, it could all be hooked up on that central kind of living room computer and do that. I don't know how into doing that you'd want to be, but I think that's a cool option.
game related would even make the top three. With that being said, let's begin.
Number 3, gaming for Windows Live. Really?
In the summer of 2006, Microsoft was riding high. They had beaten Nintendo and Sony to market with their next generation Xbox 360 console, giving them virtually no competition. And the 360 was selling very well. In about half a year, Microsoft had sold more than 5 million consoles. The company expected to have a 10 million unit head start before Sony's PlayStation 3 and Nintendo's Wii even came to market. One key element of the Xbox 360's success was Microsoft's Xbox Live network. Xbox Live brought the gaming experience to a new level with online play, achievements, leaderboards, friends lists, downloadable games and entertainment, and more. There were more than 3 million active subscriptions.
Was Microsoft the first one to do achievements? Oh, okay. I guess this game from 1990 had it. But yeah, let's search global achievements. Yo, dude. Games like Activision titles on the Atari 2600 offered physical patches for high scores in the 1980s. Okay. And here's why the Xbox 360 stands out in this context. Platform-wide systems, Gamer Score was a console-level system. Okay. Yeah, okay. So it was the Xbox 360 was like kind of first. Yeah, but they call it trophies. And honestly, it's kind of dope. They do have achievements. They're called trophies. But what's like really in my, like, I don't know. It's small. And if you're not into achievements, then you could let me know. But it's not that big of a deal. But for something like South Park, The Stick of Truth, on Steam, it has 50 achievements. On Xbox, it would have 50 achievements. But on PlayStation, it would have 51 trophies. And so every game has one additional trophy called the platinum trophy, and it's for getting all of the remaining trophies. So I think that's really sick. And also they have some good lingo in PlayStation and Sony about it, because it's like, how many games have you platinumed versus everything else? How many games have you got all the achievements on? Like, it's just smooth, platinumed, smart.
To Xbox Live, and Microsoft expected to double that in a year. But Microsoft was not content with Xbox Live being a console-only experience. At the 2006 E3 conference, Bill Gates announced a new initiative called Live Anywhere. The concept seemed promising. Live Anywhere would bring the Xbox Live experience to computers and Windows phones. It was a unified gaming platform that shared all those achievements, friends, leaderboards, and downloads across multiple platforms. In addition, Live Anywhere would support cross-platform play.
Damn.
PC players could play games with Xbox 360 players. Although Microsoft had no pricing information or release date, the company hoped to launch the new service with their upcoming operating system, Windows Vista. But Windows Vista launched in January 2007, and there was no word on the Live Anywhere program. Finally, in March of 2007, Microsoft had some news. Live Anywhere was now called Games for Windows Live. Microsoft expected to launch the service in May of 2007. The company also announced the Games for Windows branding for PC games. Titles designated as Games for Windows required Xbox 360 controller compatibility, easy install options, and more. There was also a new feature called Tray and Play that let users play the game while the computer installed it. So far, so good, right? Games for Windows Live seemed promising and ahead of its time. The service launched on May 29, 2007, with a lot of hype. But it was a complete disaster. Let's start with the pricing. For Xbox Live, Microsoft charged $49.99 a year for a gold membership, which unlocked all of the platform's best features, including online multiplayer. This was standard with console gaming, and no one batted an eye. But for some reason, Microsoft thought they could do the same thing with Games for Windows Live. To get all the best features, including multiplayer achievements, cross-platform play, and skill-based matchmaking, users would need a gold subscription at $49.99 a year. Now, if you already had an Xbox Live subscription, you could sign in with your gamer tag and get all the benefits at no extra cost. But for PC users who had no interest in getting an Xbox 360, this pricing was almost insulting. Many of the so-called perks included with the gold membership had been free for PC gamers for years. Now Microsoft wanted to charge for basic things like matchmaking? Microsoft tried to dismiss the criticism by saying that PC players could still use the server browser to find games at no cost. But the pricing issue didn't just affect users. Developers and publishers had to pay to use the platform. After a year, it seemed like Microsoft realized this was not the way to go and made Games for Windows Live free for everyone. Then there were
I'm torn and confused. My brain hurts just thinking about this. Part of me is like, well, okay, that makes sense. I guess that playing online would be free to Windows people, but not for Xbox people. But then I flip it and I'm like, why would you need to pay? Why do Xbox users have to pay and PC users don't? I'm a little confused. It seems messy and odd. Yeah, I'm confused about it.
For the games. Games for Windows Live launched with 2 games, Halo 2 and Shadowrun. Halo 2 did have some nice features, like a map editor, but critics considered the game a mediocre port that didn't do anything special. But more shockingly, the game did not support crossplay with Xbox users, a feature Microsoft had hyped for months. The other launch game, Shadowrun, did support crossplay, but it was a mostly shallow experience and retailed for a high price of $59.99 on Xbox 360 and $49.
It's different markets and expectations, just like you play games online for free on PC, but you need to pay for console. It's kind of just how it goes. No, I understand it. I guess I'm just like, I've never thought about it, and it does almost seem, I don't know. It's pretty sick. I will say that, like, as someone who just plays on PC now, it is dope that once I buy a game, I don't even think, I don't have to think about anything outside of maybe buying DLCs in the future. That's why it's so crazy that WoW makes so much money with a monthly subscription. Yeah, it's also nuts people still want to pay that much. I guess technically, if it's still $15 a month, technically it's significantly cheaper than when the game came out 20 or so more years ago with inflation. That being said, and I thought this way back then, I think it was because I was an Xbox user back then. When someone told me that WoW was $15 a month, I was just like, that's insane. What? You're paying double for a single game than I pay for all of my Xbox games a month? That doesn't make any sense.
$9.99 on PC. It seemed like Microsoft completely forgot about crossplay. In total, only 5 games supported crossplay on Games for Windows Live. And that nifty tray and play feature that installed the game while you played, it was only used with 1 game, Halo 2. There was also a lack of software. Microsoft eventually launched a marketplace for Games for Windows Live, letting users download full games, demos, trailers, DLC, and more. The marketplace was supposed to compete with Steam, a similar, more popular service, but it had a much smaller selection. The platform itself was a mess. Initially, Games for Windows Live wasn't even a standalone application, which was very different from its Xbox counterpart. On the Xbox 360, users were signed into Xbox Live on startup and could access everything from a central hub. It was easy, simple, and made sense. But on Games for Windows Live, users had to launch the games first, and then they could access the Games for Windows Live features.
Wow.
It was, as one writer described it, stuck inside the games, like a weird growth. Games for Windows Live was also highly unintuitive. The application looked like it was designed for Xbox, making it difficult for PC users to navigate. Microsoft eventually improved the experience, but it was too little too late. And finally, Games for Windows Live had many issues, maybe too many to list in this video. For one, you couldn't log into the same account on the PC and Xbox 360. So if you were playing a game on PC and someone else booted up your Xbox 360, it would kick you out of your PC game.
That's
Microsoft's recommended fix was to create a new account for Games for Windows Live, which would defeat the purpose of having a unified account across platforms. And many times, losing your connection to Games for Windows Live led to corrupt save files. This was a rampant problem, with countless internet forum posts asking for help. Unfortunately, Microsoft never had a concrete fix for corrupted save files. Usually, the solution was for players to start a new game. But there's more.
I'm really curious about these types of problems in these industries. Yeah. So the people playing the games, I mean, creating all this stuff, do they play video games? That's question one. And I'm kind of thinking that most of them don't. And that's why there's some problems that just kind of go on forever and have really stupid solutions. Like having multiple accounts when one of your features is like achievements and gamer score and having your friends on a list and all that shit. Yeah, but the fix, the issue with the corrupted game files, like that's coming up because you're on your PC playing Halo, and then your girlfriend or wife turns on your Xbox to throw on Netflix, and it interrupts the game. So I think the fix there could have been, you could pop up a warning on the PC that says, hey, you're signed into 2 places, save your game within 10 minutes. Or whatever, right? I hear what you're saying, but I think the issue that they're saying is like, it's just it's booting you out of a game. So if they just put a timer on and said, you have 10 minutes to save this game, or you will be kicked out, or turn off your Xbox, I think that is a pretty good solution. And the reason why I bring that up is because I think it was Facebook early days. Almost every single person that worked there had an iPhone. So their Android app was like totally trash. And I think one of the solutions they came up with was they bought all the developers Android phones to use the app and see where the problems were firsthand. So I wonder how many people in the Xbox department actually played video games and actually came across these kind of stupid issues. Not having a standalone app on your PC to access the store is really weird. It's a really strange issue right off the bat. Like, why wouldn't they make an app right off the bat where you could see just like the Xbox dashboard, see what your friends are doing, see what achievements you have, go into the game store and buy stuff, all that.
In 2010, Microsoft updated its voice codec for 360 games. This update completely broke cross-platform voice chat, and Microsoft never fixed it. The public quickly soured on Games for Windows Live. Every time a publisher announced their game would use the platform, there was a collective groan. It was shocking just how bad it was, considering Microsoft claimed they were the, quote, only company that can pull this off. The beginning of the end came on September 13th, 2011, when Microsoft announced Xbox Live was coming to Windows 8. Many people were confused, wondering if this was the end of Games for Windows Live. Microsoft reassured everyone they would continue to support the platform, but the writing was on the wall. In 2014, Microsoft officially discontinued the service. But even from the grave, Games for Windows Live continued to wreak havoc. Many publishers with Games for Windows Live supported games made them available on platforms like Steam. But with the Games for Windows Live service shutting down, it made the games unplayable. Publishers had to go back and modify their games to remove the service just to make their games playable again. Even as late as 2021, Bethesda finally removed the Games for Windows Live functionality from Fallout 3. Today, Microsoft has unified its gaming platform under the Xbox
7 years
brand
later
on both PC and Xbox consoles, and it's a much, much better implementation. Speaking from personal experience, I can't even begin to describe the awfulness of Games for Windows Live. It was an unintuitive, buggy disaster. I think Joe Stg West of IGN summed up Games for Windows Live best when he said, "If I could use one word to describe my experience with it, it would be ugh. If I were to use 7, it would be ugh. What the f is this shit?"
Xbox One announcement, number 2.
In 2012, rumors started popping up about Microsoft's next console that would succeed the Xbox 360. The new system, then known as the Xbox 720, would feature Blu-ray support, native 3D output.
It's a solid move, not doing that. Just skipping it. I mean, it's confusing as shit and kind of weird. Their numbering shit is so weird. Their console, like, PlayStation killed it. Great job on the titles for PlayStation. You got the PlayStation, PlayStation 2. What's next? PlayStation 3. What's next? PlayStation 4. What's next? PlayStation 5. Very simple. Not Microsoft. The Xbox. The Xbox 360. The Xbox One. The Xbox Series.
Background recording of television programs, apps, and more. With these rumors, it seemed like Microsoft wanted to position itself as the only device people needed in their living rooms. But 2 rumors concerned the community. The first was that Microsoft was implementing some sort of anti-used game system. The theory was that games would be tied to a user's Xbox Live account, making it impossible to resell or lend the game to a friend. The second concerning rumor was that the new Xbox would be in an always-on state, meaning it would have to be connected to the internet to play games. Microsoft, of course, refused to comment on rumors and speculation, so all people could do was wait and see. But in 2013, news reports gave credibility to the rumors. In addition, the next Xbox, now codenamed Durango, would require the Kinect, a motion control camera accessory, to even operate. People were now sounding the alarms. What if you lived in a rural area and had spotty internet? Was the Kinect camera always watching and recording you?
Yeah.
And how come players couldn't buy or sell used games anymore? No video game console had ever.
Yeah, so again, it's like kind of the issue as before with the problems. Do these devs like not enjoy privacy, and like do any of them not live in fucking Silicon Valley? That's such a weird ask to want people to always be connected to the internet, or at least have quick connection when you turn on the Xbox. You can actually play, and then to require that there's a live webcam in your living room. So creepy, so weird. The webcam games are just weird in general. I don't know, movement games are weird in general. Just odd.
Ever required an internet connection to run games. In the recent disastrous launches of always online games like SimCity and Diablo 3 only threw fuel on the fire. It didn't help that Microsoft Studios creative director Adam Orth went on Twitter and downplayed the controversy, tweeting that every device now is always on. That's the world we live in. #deal with it. It caused an uproar and eventually led to Orth leaving Microsoft and making his Twitter account
Get
private.
out of here.
Officially, Microsoft once again refused to comment on the rumors and speculation. Meanwhile, Sony confirmed their next console, the PlayStation 4, would not require an internet connection, although Sony did recommend one for downloading essential updates for the system. But on May 21st, 2013, Microsoft was ready to reveal its new console to the public. At the Xbox campus in Redmond, Washington, the company unveiled the new Xbox One, an all-in-one device for games, television, and entertainment. And unfortunately, all those concerning rumors were true. The Xbox One was not technically always on, but would require a connection to check in once every 24 hours. The Xbox One also required a Kinect, so users could control the console with their voice. And
Gross.
sure enough, used games were tied to a player's account. The game publishers had to enable users to trade them in or share them with friends. And on top of that, the Xbox One announcement focused more on everything except video games.
I'm watching live TV, TV experience, Skype, Xbox, watch ESPN.
Scripted television.
And with the required Kinect, the Xbox One would cost an astonishing $499. Comparatively, the PlayStation 4 cost $399.
Yeah, but you don't get a
At a time when
webcam.
people should be excited
But you don't get a webcam. You don't get a webcam filming the inside of your apartment all the time. Come on, guys.
about
Come on,
new
guys.
consoles, players were confused and upset. Microsoft defended its choices by saying they were trying to move to a more digital world. But players thought their actions were anti-consumer and that Microsoft was trying to appease publishers. At the 2013 E3 conference, Microsoft hoped to win people back by focusing on their upcoming Xbox One games. But it was Sony who stole the show. The weekend before E3, Sony decided to refocus their presentation to let people know they would not go down the same path as Microsoft. On their YouTube channel, they uploaded a humorous tutorial on how to share games on the PlayStation 4.
Thanks.
And during the conference, Sony CEO Jack Tretton delivered blow after blow.
PlayStation 4 won't impose any new restrictions on the use of PS4 game discs. They can trade in the game at retail, sell it to another person, lend it to a friend, or keep it forever. PlayStation 4 disc-based games don't need to be connected online to play, and it won't stop working if you haven't authenticated within 24 hours.
This is like, it's so funny how fucking delusional Microsoft is that they did all that shit, and like, what easy wins for Sony. It has to be, that had to be like the easiest E3 for them. Listen up, folks. Listen up. We've heard your responses, and we're gonna do a few things. Your console that you paid for, you don't have to connect it to the internet every day. You could still use it. I know. Revolutionary. That game that your friend bought that they don't like, they could just hand it to you. I know. Revolutionary. We heard your privacy concerns, and we will not require you to have a camera in your living room that is always listening and on. I know. Revolutionary.
$399.
It was quite possibly one of the worst beatdowns in E3 history. Microsoft took the hint. 1 week after the E3 conference, they announced the Xbox One would no longer require an internet connection, and that there were no longer limitations with disc-based games. Players could trade in, rent, or lend games to friends. Microsoft's president of the Interactive Entertainment Business Division, Don Matrick, who was in charge of the Xbox One unveiling, left the company in July.
Damn.
Then, in August, Microsoft announced the Kinect was no longer required for the Xbox One to function. But even with all this, the damage had been done.
I keep on forgetting. I know they mentioned it. We talked. I fucking forgot that there was a time where they really were going to require you to buy that stupid Kinect. I keep on forgetting that was a requirement at one point. You had to have the Kinect.
Xbox One announcement, Microsoft practically handed Sony the crown. It's estimated that the PlayStation 4 outsold the Xbox One 2-1. And we can only estimate because in 2015, Microsoft announced they would no longer share console sales data. While the Xbox One announcement was devastating, Microsoft's biggest mistake almost completely removed the company from the video game console business.
Oh, really?
When Microsoft released the Xbox in 2001, they hoped to put a dent in Sony's video game business, but they barely made a scratch. The PlayStation 2 outsold the Xbox 5-1, and
God damn.
Microsoft sold every Xbox console at a loss.
Dude,
But
those
Microsoft
controllers
had
were
deep
so
pockets
shit.
and considered it the price of being new to the industry. By 2003, Microsoft was starting work on the next Xbox. The company wanted to be the first to release a
Microsoft? Kind of wild. Original Xbox. Like, why did they think this was a good idea versus... Here it is. Perfect. It is kind of insane that this was what was already out. And Microsoft is like, you know what we should do? Double the size. Make the controller twice as big. Because bigger is better. What an ugly ass controller, too. It is a disgusting controller. Dude, PlayStation's controllers have always been just good. Like, great. Look up weird video game controllers. Oh, it was, huh? It had that weird, like, cock in the middle. Yeah, Nintendo, I mean, yeah, when you step back and you kind of look at it, you're like, who? I mean, yeah, they're just trying to get their feet wet, but what's with this, like, massive dick in the middle of your controller? Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, the Wii looked weird as shit. Dude. But I get it, because it was for movement, so they needed two controllers, but let's look at that. Look at this, dude, the Dreamcast. What were you guys fucking smoking? What were they doing? And then why did Microsoft copy this one? This is what they copied. What the fuck? What's the GameCube controller look like? That's crazy looking. Jeez, what the fuck were they thinking? I don't know if that's real. Like a weird aftermarket. Okay, let's look at the GameCube. Ooh. Ew. And not so good looking. That's weird. Yeah, that's still, I think, though, better than the Xbox, the original Xbox controller. But, you know, and way better than Dreamcast. What were the Wii controllers? Remind ourselves. I don't think the Wii's were it kind of makes sense. Okay, wait. Was it these two? I think it was, right? Or was it two of the long things? Or was it just one? Was it just super funky, but once you figured it out, it made sense, it clicked, yeah. But goofy. Tough to be first to market with something new, and then it actually lead standard. But PlayStation did it. Their controllers haven't changed at all. And to your point, the Switch controllers are pretty... Like, these are tiny as shit. These are so small. It was so annoying playing with one of these as your controller, being like a goddamn adult.
console in the next generation, but they also wanted it to be profitable. To speed up manufacturing and save money, Microsoft hired third-party companies to make the parts and manufacture their new console, the Xbox 360. It was a risky move. The Xbox 360 contained 1,700 parts manufactured by 200 companies.
What?
If even one part was faulty, the whole system could fail. But Microsoft was willing to take that risk, especially because Sony delayed their next console, the PlayStation 3, to 2006. Microsoft wanted a head start on the competition. Production of the Xbox 360 began in 2005, and Microsoft hoped to launch the console by November of that year. But almost immediately, there were issues. An internal memo noted overheating graphics chips, cracking heat sinks, underperforming memory, faulty DVD drives, and more. In addition, Microsoft didn't have a proper testing system set up. It was also underpowered. Microsoft needed around 1,500 test machines to thoroughly debug the consoles, but they only had 500. In August 2005, a Microsoft engineer suggested they shut down production to fix the myriad of
wild fixes too. Remember one of the fixes for the Red Ring of Death was, okay, go into your closet, grab a towel, wrap your Xbox in a towel, and turn it on. And then all that was doing was cooking your fucking motherboard, undoing the glue just to get shit to power, unload a can of dust spray upside down. Yeah, the fixes were insane.
issues, but the
The fixes for like Nintendo things when those didn't work was like, oh yeah, pull your cartridge out and blow into it. That's it. But for Xbox 360, it's like, all right, we're gonna have to risk melting your Xbox so the wires connect.
man in charge of Xbox, Peter Moore, brushed it off. Because of Microsoft's deep pockets, they decided to simply set aside the faulty consoles into a bone pile and ship out the good ones. The Xbox 360 had an abysmal defect rate. For every 100 consoles manufactured, 68 of them did not work. Microsoft had to make a lot of systems just to get enough to ship by launch day.
68% didn't work? Well, with that stat, now that I know I've had 3 Xboxes, that's not totally surprising. I'm kind of shocked I didn't have to get more. That's crazy.
The company figured engineers could figure out the issues from the bone pile in the meantime. On November 22, 2005, Microsoft launched the Xbox 360, and it sold out quickly. Microsoft sold 1.5 million consoles in less than 2 months, and the system was hard to find in stores. The public thought Microsoft was creating a false shortage, but in reality, Microsoft simply couldn't manufacture enough due to the number of faulty systems coming off the line. It didn't take long before.
Listen, I swear to God, we're not artificially creating a shortage. Here's what's going on. We can only sell 35% of the Xboxes we make because the other 65 are fucking broken and they don't work. We put them in a bones pile. That's insane.
Microsoft started receiving isolated reports of 3 blinking red lights on their console. Microsoft had designed the Xbox 360 to use lights around the power button to signal controller inputs and to flash error codes. And 3 red lights meant a general hardware failure, but it quickly became known as the Red Ring of Death. Microsoft felt there was no need to be concerned because the return rate at the time was normal. However, engineers couldn't figure out what the issue was. So they attempted fixes on the bone pile systems and sent them out to customers with defective consoles, hoping it would fix the problem. Meanwhile, the Xbox 360 continued to sell quickly. By the end of March 2006, Microsoft sold 3.3 million consoles. And at the 2006 E3 conference, the company had a spectacular show, teasing several blockbuster games, including Gears of War, Grand Theft Auto 4, and Halo 3. And they were handed a silver platter when competitor Sony had an embarrassingly bad E3 presentation.
Ridge Racer! Remember that one?
Genji 2 is an action game which is based on Japanese history. So here's this giant enemy crab, and you attack its weak point for massive damage.
Not only was the PlayStation 3 delayed until November of 2006, but it would cost a whopping $599 for the 60GB model. Microsoft had the whole next-gen market to themselves for most of 2006. Peter Moore projected they would sell 10 million Xbox 360s before the PlayStation 3 was released. But the Red Ring of Death issue kept nagging. The number of returns kept increasing, and the Xbox 360 gained a reputation for failing. The San Jose Mercury News ran a story on one man who had gone through 4 Xbox 360s. By the fall of 2006,
sounds like a fucking crackhead too. Sounds like a real crackhead move. Listen, man, I know they fail, but I can't stop buying them. You're on your 4th one, sir. I love it. I love it. I love the rush. I love the rush of getting it, opening it up, playing a few hours, seeing if they get another one or not. The best. This is the best system.
9% of all Xbox 360s had been sent in for repair. In September of 2006,
so true.
Microsoft finally
Yeah, not needing to get memory cards. I talked about that. I don't know when, like sometime last week. I forget what we were watching, but I was reminiscing on how Tony Hawk's Pro Skater on the Nintendo 64. Someone in chat told me you couldn't save the game. Like on the Nintendo, there were some games you could save your file, and there were other games that you needed an additional memory card. I didn't have that. So I remember one night having a sleepover with a few friends. We got really far in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and I wanted to see the additional levels, so we had to leave my Nintendo 64 running so that in the morning I could get back to it and play the levels I hadn't seen yet. Because every time I started the game, I was starting it from scratch. The funny thing about the wired controller comment is my controller I use now, it does have the capability of being wireless, but I still like the wire. I don't want to charge it. I don't want to charge it or deal with any delay in the connection.
They admitted that there were issues with their system, but they claimed it was only from the first batch of manufactured consoles. Anyone with a console manufactured in 2005 could send in their Xbox 360 and get it repaired for free. But Microsoft had no idea how big the issue was. As returns grew, the company learned that the defect was a latent issue, meaning it might not show up for some time. In theory, returns should decline the longer a console is on the market. But for the Xbox 360, returns were increasing. So in December of 2006, Microsoft announced they were increasing the warranty on the Xbox 360 from 90 days to 1 year. In January 2007, Peter Moore announced that Microsoft had shipped 10.4 million Xbox 360 consoles. But the key word there was shipped. Microsoft only sold 9 million of those consoles. That meant Microsoft had a surplus of consoles sitting on shelves. And by that point, the Red Ring of Death issue was growing. One report based on retailer surveys suggested that the Xbox 360 failure rate was up to 33%.
Damn.
Microsoft finally decided to buckle down and figure it out. That same month, the company announced they were temporarily shutting down the production of the Xbox 360. The Red Ring of Death issue killed any momentum Microsoft had. In the first 6 months of 2007, the company sold a dismal 1.2 million consoles. But they had to get the Red Ring of Death issue under control. By the summer, engineers had finally figured out the problem, and it was an expensive fix. To repair and replace all the defective consoles, Microsoft would have to cough up $1.15 billion. More than $200 million would go to shipping costs. This was a make or break moment for the company. Peter Moore went to Microsoft CEO Steve Ballmer and delivered the bad news. But Ballmer did not hesitate. He told Moore to fix the problem. On July 5th, 2007, Microsoft announced they were extending the warranty of the Xbox 360 to 3 years and would replace any defective console for free.
What?
By 2008, new parts and manufacturing had improved the success rate of consoles coming off the line to 92%. Microsoft continued to replace Xbox 360 consoles until 2011. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, what exactly caused the Red Ring of Death? At the time, Microsoft never officially explained the root cause, but most people theorized it had something to do with overheating. It wasn't until December of 2021 that Microsoft finally revealed what caused the issue in their 6-part documentary series on the history of Xbox.
Problem was a connection was breaking. The reason it was breaking was thermal, but it wasn't because of the peak temperature. It was because when the unit would get hot and then cold, every time it did that, it would stress the connection.
You get all sorts of stresses
And just like when you bend something too many times till it finally breaks, that's what was happening.
The Red Ring of Death is perhaps the greatest hardware failure in video game history. But Microsoft did the right thing. Unfortunately, it came at a considerable cost. The Red Ring of Death issue killed any momentum the company had. Sony had a very rough start with the PlayStation 3, but there is no doubt the Red Ring of Death issue played a huge part in allowing them to catch up to Microsoft. It's fair to wonder what would have happened if Microsoft had been able to avoid these issues. So, there you have it. Microsoft's 3 biggest mistakes. At this point, I've covered the major players: Nintendo, Sony, and now Microsoft. But perhaps there are some smaller companies we can cover in an upcoming video. Let me know which mistakes I should look at next in the comments below. That's all for this episode of The Gaming Historian. Thanks for watching.
Funding for Gaming Historian is provided in part by supporters on Patreon. Thank you.
It's really funny. Like, I don't remember. I thought PlayStation has always been pretty solid out the gate, but I guess when your pricing is $600 in whatever year this is, kind of a lot to ask. That's pretty wild. But I know we looked at the prices of all of these. They've been semi-consistent with the bigger brands. It is really funny the clunkiness of some things, like, and how much it could have been avoided. Like, why wouldn't you just call your whole thing Xbox or something? I don't know. Like, I guess you get kind of this fluid, great shit through trial and error most of the time. Yeah.